Hello, and welcome to a Pathless Travelled UK Kensal Green Cemetery tour. My name is Marcy, and as with all of my walking guides, the aim of this tour is to make travelling between points of interest more interesting. Before proceeding, please ensure you have listened to the introduction on YouTube or read it on the A Pathless Travelled UK Facebook or Instagram pages. This will give you all relevant information, such as important safety notices, as you are responsible for your well-being at all times on these tours. Also, don't listen to the commentary while walking. Keep alert of your surroundings and find a safe spot to stop and listen. The next photo is from Google Maps, giving an overview of the area we're covering. There are also more detailed maps with each section of commentary to assist you in finding your way around. The whole tour takes 2 to 3 hours, depending on how long you take at each gravesite. The more pedantic among you will realize that I use the words grave, tomb, mausoleum, and memorial interchangeably. I do apologize for that. In some cases, I don't know which term is the most appropriate, though I do know their definitions, but mostly it's just to avoid saying the same word multiple times, which can be hard on the ears. Now, assuming you're up to speed with the general premise of these self-guided walking tours, let's begin. Today's tour starts at Kensal Green Underground Station and ends there as well. As there are so many interesting monuments in this cemetery, this tour is solely focused on it. Also, please note that there are no convenience stores or cafes between the station and the cemetery entrance, so please bring a drink and a snack with you. Now make your way to Kensal Green Underground Station, which is in the northwest of London on the Bakerloo line and the Lioness Overground line. Before climbing the stairs, you may wish to admire these rather sweet train tunnels. After going through the ticket barrier, you will see there is a rather helpful sign over the door pointing you in the direction of the cemetery. As it says, turn left on College Road and go to the corner. Use the pedestrian crossing to go over College Road to the right, and then cross over Harrow Road to the left. Once across, turn left, so you are walking with the wall of the cemetery on your right-hand side for about 10 minutes to reach the main entrance. It's not as dull as it sounds, as you will soon be treated to sneaky peeks through the disused gate and over a low wall. Pause commentary until you reach there. Kensal Green Cemetery was the first of the Magnificent Seven Victorian cemeteries and opened in 1833. Its 72 acres are Grade 1 listed, with over 100 monuments having at least a Grade 2 listing. It has the distinction out of the 7 cemeteries to still be owned by the company that launched it, the General Cemetery Company. Please bear in mind when walking around that the grounds here are still in active use, so if you happen upon a burial in progress, please avoid that area if possible. After carefully passing through the gateway, please take the path to the left. Cars are allowed on the paved paths, so please keep to the sides. Make your way down to the very bottom of the path to the Dissenters' Chapel. Pause commentary until you reach there. The Dissenters or Nonconformist Chapel was built between 1831 and 1834 and restored by the Historic Chapel Trust in 1997. It was designed by John Griffith in the neoclassical style, which was popular at the time. The eastern side of the cemetery was reserved for dissenters, or people that weren't followers of the Church of England. It suffered bomb damage in World War II and deteriorated so much after that the wings were demolished in the 1970s. As you can see, the Historic Chapels Trust did a wonderful job rebuilding the wings and restoring the main structure. There is a catacomb underneath the chapel, which sadly is not open. You can get a peek at the interior by looking through the grille on the doors. While on the porch, look to the left of the doors at the memorial to Maharani Jindi Kaur. Jind Kaur was regent of the Sikh Empire from 1843 to 1847. When the empire was dissolved, she was proclaimed Maharani, which is a royal title meaning great ruler. Her husband's 3 previous successors had all been assassinated, so it was with incredible courage that she became regent to her 5-year-old son, Duleep Singh. This was at a time of British dominancy in what is now Pakistan, however, and after the First Anglo-Sikh War, she was imprisoned and her son taken to England. She escaped captivity and was given asylum in Nepal for 11 years. Only after she went blind and was deemed by the British to no longer be a threat was Jindy allowed to be reunited with her son 13 years after last seeing him. She died in Kensington in 1863, and her body was kept in this chapel until the following spring, when her son was finally allowed to take her to Bombay for cremation. It was illegal to cremate a body in Britain before 1885. Her ashes are now housed in the Samadhi of Ranjit Singh in Lahore. Next, please turn your back to the chapel and continue up the path on the left, keeping an eye out on the right-hand side for these two impressive obelisks. Please don't venture off the path unless you're wearing hiking boots. Pause commentary until you reach there. I will confess that I had not heard of Robert Owen before and only looked him up due to this memorial, which was erected in 1879. Simply put, he was a social reformer and his theories are known as Owenism. He was passionately against children working in factories, which was sadly common in the Victorian era. Owen tried to create workers' unions but was unsuccessful. He did limit the work hours to 8 a day for his own employees, as well as providing basic health care, as this was long before the NHS. He also provided education for children and adults. He died at the age of 87 in 1858 and was credited with being the socialist that introduced these ideas to Britain, which helped improve society during the Industrial Revolution. Next to Robert Owen's obelisk is the Reformers Memorial. It was erected in 1885 by Joseph Corfield, and in 1907 his daughter Emma added to it. It celebrates the humanists and freethinkers of the age, including feminist Frances Wright, who worked to end slavery in America, Harriet Martineau, a writer who was outspoken against traditional religion and the subordination of women. Also included is Thomas Paine, who is famous for his declaration in Rights of Man that "My country is the world and my religion is to do good." He was against capital punishment, which led to him being imprisoned for 10 months by Robespierre in France for arguing that King Louis XVI shouldn't be executed. John Stuart Mill is another interesting man, embracing the principles of utilitarianism, which believes actions that make the majority of people happy are right. He is remembered as a writer, philosopher, and feminist. The memorial also mentions Lady Byron, who you will hear more about later. We are next going to continue down the path, which heads back towards the main gate. Continue until you are at the point where you first turned on the path and turn left. Go straight up, admiring the beautiful monuments as you do so, until you see this red granite grave on the left and hopefully a mown path of grass next to it. Turn left onto this path and walk down until you reach this marker just past a large tree. Pause commentary until you reach there. If you have been on my Brompton Cemetery to Battersea walk, the name Isambard Kingdom Brunel might sound familiar with regards to the Royal Albert Bridge that he designed and you cross the Thames on. In the list of accomplishments by this civil and mechanical engineer, however, that would only be in the top 10. One of the key figures in the Industrial Revolution, Brunel designed transatlantic steamships, the GWR, Great Western Railway, the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol, as well as numerous tunnels, dockyards, and prefabricated hospitals used in the Crimea. He is buried here alongside his father Mark, also an engineer, and worked with him to build the first tunnel under the River Thames using an iron shielding system. This tunnel is now used by underground trains. In 2002, the BBC conducted a poll of the 100 greatest Britons, and Isambard only missed out at the top spot to Winston Churchill. I think his most impressive work was for the GWR. He mapped out the entire route from London Paddington Station, which he also designed, to Bristol himself, incorporating designs for viaducts like Ivy Bridge and tunnels like the Box Tunnel, which was the longest railway tunnel at that time. If you would like to see more of his works, consider a trip down to Swindon Steam Railway Museum, which has items from this part of his career. He is also remembered in a window in Westminster Abbey in the south side of the nave and the Brunel Museum in Rotherhithe in London. His son, Henry Mark Brunel, also buried here, was an engineer, with his most notable work being Tower Bridge, designed with Sir John Wolfberry. Next, return to the path you were just on and turn left. You will soon come to this three-way split in the path, and we will eventually be going up the central path, but I want you to admire the stunning monument to the left on the way. Pause commentary until you reach there. Commander Charles Spencer Ricketts was an officer in the Royal Navy, which he entered at the tender age of 7. He served during the Napoleonic Wars before retiring at 26. He married Elizabeth Aubrey, whom was the heiress of the 6th Baronet, Sir John Aubrey, and though it wasn't a happy marriage, it appears he was close to his daughter Julia, who commissioned William Burgess to design this memorial. It has been renovated in this century and was one of the Grade II listed structures I mentioned. It has certainly divided opinions over the years, being called atrociously rich, and also one of the greatest high Victorian memorials. What do you think of it? Next, turn with your back to the grave and turn left going up the central path I mentioned earlier, but stopping at the first grave on the left. Pause commentary until you reach there. Henry Edward Kendall was a British architect who was possibly a student of the great John Nash. Kendall is credited, along with his son, in designing the Esplanade and Tunnel in Kemp Town, Brighton. He is also one of the founders of the Royal Institute of Architects. Though he won the 100 Guinea Prize for his proposed Gothic design for the cemetery, the committee decided to go ahead with John Griffith's Greek Revival design instead. Kendall was allowed to keep the money, though. You can see why he chose the striking Gothic imagery on his own tomb to be remembered by, though. He lived to the glorious age of 98 years old. Continue up the middle path, and a short way down you will come to this monumental tomb on the left-hand side. Pause commentary until you reach there. Major General Sir William Casement is actually buried in India, where he died of cholera in 1844. He was part of the East India Company and military secretary to the Governor-General of India. The cenotaph was created by E. M. Launder and does mark the graves of Casement's wife, Amelia, and their son. There is a portrait of Sir William in the National Army Museum in London. Just up on the right-hand side, you will find the tomb of William Mulready. Pause commentary until you reach there. The first thing noteworthy about Mulready's effigy is the material it's made from, polymite, which is an artificial stone. It was designed by Godfrey Sykes and displayed at the Paris exhibition in 1867. William Mulready was an Irish painter best known for his romanticized rural landscapes, many of which are now in the Tate Gallery or the Victoria and Albert Museum. He also illustrated children's books, including Charles and Mary Lamb's Tales from Shakespeare in 1807. He died in London at 77 years old. We are next making our way to the De Croo Monument, but please pause to admire the striking memorial on the way. Sadly, I don't know who is buried here, but they had style. Continue up the path, and shortly on the left you will see this over-the-top tomb. Pause commentary until you reach there. This mausoleum was originally designed for the wife of Andrew De Croo, whose name I have sadly not been able to find, in 1837, but further decorations were added when Andrew was buried here in 1842. The tomb is on the list of Grade II listed buildings in need of conservation, but I couldn't find any update as to whether this has been secured. Something to bear in mind if you happen to win the lottery. De Croo was a circus stunt rider and also produced hippodramas, which are a blend of circus horsemanship and theatre. He is joined by his youngest son, also called Andrew de Croo, who died of wounds received during the Battle of Rangariri in New Zealand in November 1863. Approximately 1,400 British troops defeated the 500 Maori in the conflict which resulted in the expansion of colonization to the North Island. Please have a look at the small symbolic details of the tomb, such as the broken column, representing a life cut short, the carefully sculpted lady's hat and gloves, the sphinxes, the winged horse, shells, angels, and beehives. It was designed by George Danson, who was also a painter, and is buried in the cemetery elsewhere. From the de Croo Mausoleum, please turn left while facing it and go down the grass path. Very shortly on the left, you will see this rather forlorn-looking horse statue. Pause commentary until you reach there. Keeping with the circus theme, this is the grave of Alfred Cook, who bred horses for the equestrian acts. He came from a family that had a traveling circus show from 1780 to 1912 called Cook's Royal Circus. Over half the acts included horses. The limestone used for the sculpture has sadly dissolved over the years, but you can still get a sense of its artistry. A short way down, also on the left-hand side, you will find this rather large urn monument. Pause commentary until you reach there. This is the grave of John Claudius Loudon and his wife Jane Loudon. Jane wrote the classic novel The Mummy, which is still in print today. She then went on to write best-selling gardening books. John, a Scottish botanist, author, and garden designer, was a driving force in improving greenhouses and even developed plans for solar heating systems. He also saw the necessity for green spaces in urban areas, becoming a city planner decades before others took up the role seriously. He planned out 3 cemeteries in Bath, Cambridge, and Southampton, though the latter was rejected, that were a huge influence on other cemetery designers of the day. John did a landscape layout of Brompton Cemetery, which I cover on another tour. He made a very unusual memorial to his parents at St. John the Baptist Pioneer Parish Church, which features a coffin sticking out halfway up a wedge-type structure. It really needs to be seen and is on my list of places to go. He wrote numerous books and articles on gardening, including the 1832 book Gardenesque, which influenced the designers of Abney Park and the City of London cemeteries. He and Jane are commemorated with a blue plaque on their former home at 3 Porchester Terrace in Bayswater, London. Their daughter Agnes and granddaughter Beatrix are commemorated on the gravestone to the left. A couple meters down on the left, you will find the refurbished gravestone of William Vincent Wallace. Pause commentary until you reach there. Wallace was born in Ireland and was a popular piano and violin player before becoming a composer. Him and his family moved to Australia in 1835, where they opened the first Australian Music Academy in April the following year. After he separated from his wife in 1838, he went on what we would call a world tour, playing in New Zealand, Chile, Argentina, Peru, Jamaica, Cuba, and finally ending up in Mexico City in 1841. From there, he lived in New Orleans and then New York, where he published his first compositions. After arriving in London in 1845, his opera, Maritana, opened to great acclaim and was performed around the world. He wrote several more operas, including Lurline and compositions for the piano. Recordings are still available today. Incidentally, the grave behind Wallace's is that of Michael William Balfe, another Irish composer that achieved international fame. His most famous opera was The Bohemian Girl. You are now going to continue down this path and follow it around to the right, heading ultimately for the front of the Anglican chapel and this grand monument. Look out for William Holland's impressive tomb on the left as you go. Pause commentary until you are in the opening in front of the chapel. Whilst facing the chapel, turn to your left to view the memorial to Princess Sophia, the 12th child and 5th daughter of King George III and Queen Charlotte. Bridgerton fans may be interested to know that 3 of their children are buried here. Sophia was said to have been her father's favourite, though she and her sisters lived in fear of their formidable mother. As the Queen liked to have her daughters to hand as companions, only one of them managed to escape the nunnery, as it was called, to get married while she was alive. Following the death of her mother in 1818, Sophia went to live with her niece, the future Queen Victoria, at Kensington Palace. There, the bully, John Conroy, a companion of Victoria's mother, took advantage of Sophia's blindness and senility and spent most of her money. She passed away at the palace in May 1848 and had asked to be buried near her brother, who is in the tomb opposite. Please now turn with your back to Sophia's grave to view the monument to the Duke of Sussex. Prince Augustus Frederick was the sixth son and ninth child of King George III and Queen Charlotte. He was known for his desire to have the slave trade be abolished and the easing or removing of restrictions on Catholics, Jews, and dissenters. Unusually for royalty at the time, his first marriage was annulled, and he is buried with his second wife, Lady Cecilia Underwood. She was never recognized as the Duchess of Sussex, but Queen Victoria gifted her the title Duchess of Inverness in her own right. As the Duke suffered with asthma, he did not follow his brothers into military careers, though he did serve as Lieutenant Colonel Commandant for the Loyal North Britons Volunteer Regiment in Britain during the Napoleonic Wars. Later in life, he was president of the Royal Society for 8 years. He had the honour of giving Queen Victoria away at her wedding to Prince Albert in 1840. He passed away at Kensington Palace in April 1843. Next, please carefully climb the steps to the chapel. Upon entering the covered porch area, go through the opening on your left. Follow the wing of the church down to the end where you will find this memorial. Pause commentary until you reach there. I regret my poor eyes were unable to read the full names clearly on this moving memorial, but I wanted to share it with you regardless as a beautiful monument to love and mourning. Next, please turn with your back to this monument and, taking care of the large step down, make your way to the end of the chapel wing directly opposite. Pause commentary until you reach there. This striking tomb is for the daughters of John Graham and Mary Locke. Georgina Clements and Mary Rebecca Scully, I assume, were much loved by their parents to have such an elaborate tomb in such a prominent place. I think the sculpture work in particular on the front is exceptional. Next, please turn and exit the way you entered, minding the step, and proceeding down the steps to the right. Turn right onto the path running away from the chapel and walk up until you see the grass path on the right side between this tomb and grave. Go down the path carefully until you see the grave with this cross. Pause commentary until you reach there. As it states on the headstone, Wilkie Collins was an author and playwright best known for The Woman in White. He was also known for setting the standard for many future detective novels with his work The Moonstone. He was a longtime friend of Charles Dickens and was mentored by him. They even wrote a play together called No Thoroughfare. Following Collins' success in the 1860s with 4 novels selling vast quantities, he was able to support other writers. Sadly, he suffered from gout, which led to a laudanum addiction. He also had failing eyesight in later years, which is said to have affected the quality of his work. He died of a stroke at the age of 65. Always against the institute of marriage, he is buried with one of his 2 life partners, Caroline Graves. Please now return to the path you just left and turn right. Very soon, on the left-hand side, you will see this double headstone. Pause commentary until you reach there. Jean-Francois Cravelet Blondin, who performed under the name Charles Blondin, was the first person to walk over the Niagara Gorge on a tightrope. He went on to repeat the feat as many as 300 times between 1859 and 1896. He would cross it blindfolded, carrying his manager, stopping to make an omelette, or dressing up as an ape and pushing a wheelbarrow. He died from diabetic complications in his Ealing home, which he had lovingly called Niagara House. Please now continue down the path, and soon on the right-hand side you will see the mausoleum to the Duke of Cambridge. Pause commentary until you reach there. The Duke of Cambridge, Prince Adolphus, was the 10th child and 7th son of George III and Queen Charlotte. He was Viceroy of the Kingdom of Hanover on behalf of his brothers, King George IV and King William IV. He had a long military career in the Hanoverian and British armies, though sadly he is mostly known for his failure to defeat a joint attack by the Prussian and French forces on the Weser, a river in Lower Saxony, during the War of the Second Coalition. He married his second cousin, Princess Augusta of Hesse-Kassel, and they had 3 children. One of their grandchildren, Mary of Teck, went on to marry King George V. Continue down the path and turn down the next path to the right. After the first bend in the path, you will see the tomb of Decimus Burton after 2 large trees. It is hard to get to without potentially twisting an ankle, so please remain on the path and enjoy my photos instead. Pause commentary until you reach there. Decimus Burton was a prominent architect specializing in Roman and Greek Revival, Georgian neoclassical, and Regency styles. He was also one of the founders of the Royal Institute of British Architects. You may very well have seen several of his projects without realizing it, as they include the Wellington Arch, the enclosed forecourt at Buckingham Palace, the Palm and Temperate houses at Kew Gardens, as well as the area around Regent's Park, which includes his own mansion, the Home. A critic described the latter as the definition of Western civilization in a single view. A dedication to Decimus is on the end of the monument facing the trees. On the opposite side is one to his brother Henry, a physician that died of cholera while treating many patients with it. Their other brother, James, was an Egyptologist who mapped the Valley of the Kings. He's buried in Edinburgh under the family's original surname, Halliburton. They really are a remarkable family of what you could call overachievers, if you get a chance to look them up. From here, please continue down the path to the end and turn left. Follow this grassy path until you come to this black granite grave in the center. I don't want to share too many details as it's from this century, but you can see the ground portion of it in the bottom of the photo. Take the grass path to the right, which then swings around to the left and brings you out at the car entrance to this side of the cemetery. Please keep to the left-hand side out of the roadway, as I saw a couple of cars drive in at a speed that they would have found it difficult to miss a pedestrian. Keep following the road straight down, admiring some of the stunning memorials on the way. Soon you will reach a mini roundabout of sorts with this tomb in the center. Pause commentary until you reach there. The tomb of Mehdi Oliver Merah was designed by Sino Sculpture using 350 tons of granite, 150 tons of steel, and 200 tons of concrete. What is truly memorable about it is it represents a parent's grief for their 11-year-old son Mehdi, who died in a horse riding accident. There is a dedication to him in the center of the memorial, but as there were people using it for reflection at the time, I didn't want to intrude by taking photos. It really is a beautiful space, though it will forever be linked with the sadness of a life cut too short. Feel free to pause the commentary if you wish to sit here a while. When ready to move on, please exit the circular walkway on the path opposite the one you entered. Go straight down to the end, and when there, carefully walk over the grass slightly to your right, but still moving in the same general direction, towards this low-walled enclosure. Pause commentary until you reach there. Though there is a larger memorial to the soldiers that lost their lives in World War I further west in the cemetery, I wanted to share this quiet, beautiful space, which is the final resting place of men from Australia, Canada, and South Africa who died very far from home. It was the best maintained area I saw the whole time I was here, and rightly so you could add, showing their sacrifice has not been forgotten. Please return to the path you were just on, taking care on the uneven ground, and turn right. Go straight down the path to the end and turn right. Follow the path as it bends to the left. Take the second path on the left and you will see these graves. Proceed up the path until you come to this grave on the right-hand side. Pause commentary until you reach there. Charles Babbage is widely credited with having conceived the first automatic digital computer. This English polymath, which is a person whose knowledge in many different areas is used to solve specific problems, sadly died before he was able to complete his designs for the difference or analytical engines, but his ideas led the way in the new world of computing. Many of his interests are covered in his book, first published in 1832, on the economy of machinery and manufacturers, which is still in print. An interesting aside, half of Babbage's brain is preserved at the Hunterian Museum in the Royal College of Surgeons. The other half is in the Science Museum in London, which also has some of his inventions on display. Continue up the path from Babbage's grave until you reach the path crossing with this mausoleum on the corner. Stop when you have slightly passed the mausoleum so it is to your right in your field of view and you can see the area behind it. Pause commentary until you reach there. Do not, under any circumstances, go to the next grave. I don't care if you have industrial boots on, it is not safe. I found out the hard way. Please do as I say, not as I obviously did. Enjoy my photos instead. Thank you. If you look very carefully between the two large upright monuments, you can just see a small pillar with a railing coming out of it at ground level behind them. This is the grave of Anne Isabel Noel Byron, 11th Baroness Wentworth, more commonly known as Lady Byron. Though she was married to the poet Lord Byron for less than a year, she kept the title and their daughter, Ada Lovelace, after they separated. Ada incidentally worked with Charles Babbage, who I was just speaking about. Lady Byron was committed to prison reform and the abolition of slavery. Her obsessive documentation of her relationship with Lord Byron has sadly overshadowed her accomplishments. She is also commemorated on the Reformers Monument at the beginning of the tour. Please now proceed down the path that you just turned right onto. This will lead you down to the gate that you entered at. Turn left to get to the gate, turn left once outside of it, and proceed up Harrow Road until you are back at the crossing you crossed the road at outside the station. Once in the station, take the train to the destination of your choice. This is the end of the Kensal Green Cemetery tour. I hope you have enjoyed it and will join me again on A Path Less Travelled UK soon.